Hey, it's an awesome pleasure to have David Bethay, the creator of Title Run Sports, in the studio today. David is going to be rocking the NFL draft analysis with me. And let me tell you, I don't personally know anybody better for that. David is a former sports journalist. He transferred into becoming a high school DB coach, and I mean a successful DB coach, putting guys in Power 5 schools year after year. I'm talking about 6A football. Like, we ain't playing around. Like, at the coaches' clinics, dealing with all these guys. So when he's breaking down film, this is coming from somebody that actually knows what he's talking about. And you hear from me, you're going to hear from somebody with a loud opinion that absolutely does not know what they're talking about.
One that I probably won't agree with, but we love each other, so we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to have a good time doing that. And I really appreciate that intro, Russ.
Yeah, well, the NFL draft is fun. I mean, you're looking at it through the mirror of Atlanta sports. We've got a tortured history. Not all of our drafts have gone extremely well. But we did get Matt Ryan at 3. I don't remember what year that was.
2008.
2008, we got Matt Ryan. Now as the dawn sets on Matt Ryan's career, we start to think, who's next? Is this the year that we get the franchise quarterback? Or is this the year that we pick up a bunch of holes in the team? Yeah. Are you telling me that we got a lot of holes, or are you telling me that we got just a few holes?
We're not Swiss cheese, but we're close. I mean, you look at the roster, and it's like every time you see one of those NFL draft breakdowns, it's like, oh, where are the Falcons' holes? And they list like 7 needs, and you're like, usually they're exaggerating, but then you're like, no, okay, let me see. Running back, yeah. Left guard, yeah. Center, yeah. Safety, yeah. Edge rusher, yeah. Okay, those are all fair. A kick returner and punt returner, all fair. So yeah, we have holes.
All right, let's just dive right in. I want to talk about cornerbacks because that's your expertise. Mm-hmm. You're a DB's guy, and I already know we're going to disagree on this, but the 2 top cornerbacks, tell me who they are and why they're the top 2 cornerbacks.
Without question, they're Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech and Patrick Surtain II from Alabama. There's no question. Those are your CB1 and your CB2, and the order is what we'll probably end up debating here.
Patrick Surtain. Is it Surtain or Surtain?
I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
I don't know that it matters. I'll say Surtain. You say Surtain.
All I know is he's a dog. Surtain is a dog. And I've watched the guy the last couple years with Alabama. He's blown my socks off. I think he's the next Champ Bailey. I watched him against George Pickens absolutely shut George down, in my opinion, in the Georgia game this year. And Pickens is not a dude to be messed with.
I think he had 3 catches in that game. Yeah.
Yes. And really, he was pushing him. He was physical. And I didn't expect that he could be able to do that to a man of George Pickens' size. But he was handsy, and he had good technique. So my question is, David, you have a lot more knowledge than me. How in the world can you tell me that this guy from the ACC, Caleb Farley, is going to be drafted in front of Patrick Surtain?
So a few things I look at: scheme, technique, ball production. So technique-wise, Patrick Surtain is very, very technically sound. What he is not is super twitchy. He's got the long frame, long arms, and he also plays in a diverse scheme, which I don't want to get too football-y with you, but the fact that he has a lot of experience playing both zone and man in Alabama scheme matters. It does matter, which is one of the things that I don't like about Farley. He is almost exclusively a press man corner. That's all they do at Virginia Tech, and he's really good at it. I think that he's a little bit more fluid and a little bit twitchier than Surtain. I don't know what Surtain's 40 time is or his shuttle time is. We probably won't get accurate reads on those from pro days. I don't think he's stiff or anything like that, but he sometimes struggles to get over the top of in-breaking routes. When people run routes like digs and slants, he can be a little bit late. But the fact that he's got good technique allows him to make up for it, and he's got good length. The biggest difference to me that makes Patrick Surtain not a top 5 cornerback is ball production. He at times struggles to track the ball. He will be in phase but not make the play on the ball. He doesn't get as many pass breakups, interceptions as I think he should. And I see a little bit more of that from Caleb Farley as well as just a little bit more overall athleticism, which is why I say I could see Caleb Farley going above Surtain if he's going to a team that's heavy on press man and isn't scared by the fact that the dude's only played corner for 2 years because he was a high school quarterback and a wide receiver when he got to Virginia Tech. That's what I think.
What I think is I heard David use the word in phase, and that sounds like some coach's lingo. What I'm going to tell you is that Surtain is a 5-star that has been playing against 5 stars almost every game that Alabama played this year. Was an SEC game, right?
Yeah,
SEC played
and
SEC.
he's been working against Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle in practice for the last 3 years. So, yeah.
So what we do agree on is he's not really bust material.
Absolutely not. And then this is what I would say. I think his ceiling is lower than a lot of people, but I think his floor is very high. So I use the comparison to Desmond Trufant. Falcons fans got mad because Desmond Trufant was paid like a top 5 corner, and he was really like a top 12 corner. He was good. He wasn't elite. We paid him like he was elite. Patrick Surtain, to me, is a guy that is when I say weak CB1, he's a CB1, but he's not at the Darrelle Revis level. But he's a good CB1. And if you get him thinking that you're getting the next, I don't know, Richard Sherman, I think you're going to be disappointed. If you get him thinking he's going to be a quality starter, then I think that's right. And I'll tell you this, I think he's the 3rd corner in last year's draft. Probably doesn't go above 15. That's just my opinion.
Well, cornerbacks, tell me somebody that you love that's maybe not in that top 2. So let's say the Falcons, for whatever reason, don't go cornerback in the first round, which just makes sense because if you look at the last few years, they've invested heavily. Last year, they took A.J. Terrell. He had an up and down rookie season, to say the best.
We disagreed as Terrell as a prospect, which we don't have to relitigate that. But I liked him as a prospect. I did think we could have gotten him later on, but who knows. But yeah, he had an up and down year, but a prospect that I really like, and I know I'm going to sound like a huge homer here, I like Eric Stokes. I've liked him since I first saw him as a redshirt freshman at the G-Day game. Like, I watched that game not knowing who he was, and I said, who was 27? I watched him battle. He's really good against bigger receivers because he's very physical, despite the fact that he's very, very lean and light in his frame. He's a track kid from high school, so he's probably going to run a 4.3 at the pro day.
If the name's not ringing a bell, we'll just put the image of him hitting Marr from Tennessee up on the screen right now, and then you'll immediately know who Eric Stokes is.
His ball production was one of the things that I didn't think was good, but he ended up with 3 picks. I think 2 pick sixes this year. And the other thing is I know this is not a big deal to a lot of people, but he tackles. He is a very willing tackler. He's light, so he does bounce off some tackles, but he is a willing tackler. And honestly, when he's healthy, I thought he was better than Tyson Campbell, who was a 5-star all-world corner. And I think you agree with me on that.
Well, yeah.
At times outplayed Tyson Campbell. The one thing Stokes is going to have a problem with that a lot of corners have struggled with as they made the transition. This was DeAndre Baker's problem. UJ teaches you to be very physical receivers in routes while they're running the routes. And with the difference between college rules and NFL rules, people don't realize this. In college, you can touch the receiver to the balls in the air. NFL, you cannot touch the receiver outside of 5 yards. So guys have a hard time with that transition. If you're used to using your hand to ride guys and stay glued to them, as I use the term in phase, which is what UJ teaches, which they should teach. If you don't have great hips and really good speed, it's hard to make that adjustment. I think Stokes is one that can make the adjustment because I think, unlike DeAndre Baker, he is like a high-end 4.34, 4.40 guy, which Baker wasn't. I think he's going to be able to make the transition.
Well, I think that when you look at the speed of Tyson Campbell, I don't know about DB coaching like you do, David, but speed doesn't always translate to great coverage.
It does not. It most certainly does not.
He was staying with guys, but he wasn't getting the ball.
And people got at me for being low on Christian Fulton last year. And I said, Christian Fulton might be the 5th or 6th best corner of the draft. Like, what? You look at LSU. He's 4.4. I was like, okay. He went in the 40s. So I'm not saying I know everything, but I know what I like, and I know what I don't like. I like what I see out of Patrick Surtain. I like what I see out of Caleb Farley. Didn't love what I saw out of Tyson Campbell, EJ. And one of my big complaints with him and Eric Stokes was, if you're going to be a first-round corner, which both of them are rumored to be first-round corners, you got to come down with more jump balls. You got to win more 50-50 balls, because I watch Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell, and you're not going to win a 50-50 ball against Trayvon Grimes every time, or against Kyle Pitts every time, or against Devontae Smith every time. But you should win some of them. You shouldn't lose all of them. And this year, it seemed like they lost all of them.
I don't think the kid's got the height. I think he's got the speed, but I don't think he's got the height to cover the goal line fade pass. And
if he goes in and measures, and this is the one of the things about losing the combine, he's listed at 5'11". He looks smaller than that. We both agree he looks smaller than that. He measures 5'11", and he's got 30-inch arms. Well, that's a big difference. It's a big difference. Because, the Falcons had this thing for years where they had a certain arm length that if you didn't match that, you had to be 6 foot with this certain arm length for Dan Quinn, or they didn't take you. Probably not going to be the case anymore. But if he goes and measures with long arms, that can help make up for some of the lack of height also, which I know that's a weird thing to talk about. But out of DB a couple years ago, he was 6'3", kid had the longest arms I've ever seen. 6'3", and his hands touch his kneecaps. And he ran a 4'7", but with his length, he had these go-go gadget arms that turned his 4'7" into a 4'5". So that stuff matters too.
It matters. All right, let's stay in the DB lane. Let's talk safety. Okay. We can all agree that safety, the depth chart is abysmal. It's like a house of horrors when you look at what the new coaching regime and the GM are going to. They're starting from scratch, basically.
Yeah, they are.
Who are they going to keep? Maybe one guy? Or
Jalen Hawkins is on the roster from the draft pick. I think we have one practice squad player we brought back whose name I can't even remember. But
there was this safety that wrecked his knee last year for the Falcons.
DeMonte KZ.
Yes.
Just finished his 4-year contract. So he's a free agent. Easily can be brought back, and he'd probably be my first choice to come back because when healthy, he's actually a competent starting NFL safety, converted corner. You could bring Keanu Neal back on a $5-6 million deal. He was actually not bad last year for us. Mm-hmm. But that's what you're looking at.
He's been hurt so much.
He's been hurt a lot.
For a young guy, he was hurt a lot.
He's been hurt a lot, and he's not great in coverage.
All right, so here's the bad news. The bad news is there aren't a lot of safeties in the draft this year.
You had last year, there's this stacked draft where a guy like Grant Delpit, who's an All-American, gets a second-round pick, and there was just safeties on top of safeties. My personal favorite last year was Antoine Winfield. I told people he reminded me of the Honey Badger. People are like, who? I'm like, yeah, the kid from Minnesota. Dad used to play NFL. Ended up winning a Super Bowl, so, it's pretty good.
And if you don't know who Antoine Winfield Jr. is, well, just remember the piece.
Yeah, that's what he's probably famous for now.
That's what he threw with the cheetah, which was really gutsy. And honestly, I felt better about it when I look back at the video they showed.
And you find out that was a receipt for what had happened to him earlier in the year when...
kept the receipt.
Yeah, the cheetah calling the National Guard on him in the first quarter on the sideline saying nobody can cover me. So, yeah, there's always a receipt for that stuff. There's always a receipt.
I love the competitiveness, though. Apparently, in this year's safety pool, the top 2 safeties are on the same team. You don't see that very often. But TCU's got the top 2 rated safeties in the draft. I've not heard of any of these guys. Yeah, I mean, you got to do some deep level analysis to know who these players are. But hey, that's what Fontenot was hired for. Right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend to be familiar with these. I studied the safety class religiously last year because I wanted the Falcons to take one, and we ended up taking Jalen Hawkins in the 5th round. With whatever. Anyways, but Trevon Moehrig is one of the top ones. I guess Richie Grant from UCF is one of the top ones. Andre Sisco is kind of the boomer prospect. He's like, I call him the Thomas Deku, and that's a deep cut for you Falcons fans of this draft. He's the kind of guy that he might get 3 picks in the game, but he might also get 3 touchdowns. You just don't know with him. So those are what the Falcons are looking at. You can take one of those guys in the 2nd or 3rd round, probably, just to get another safety on your roster. But you're looking for agents. Go get a Kenny Vaccaro who played in Tennessee with Dean Pease, who's a Falcons UDC. Go get a guy like that. Re-sign Keanu Neal, re-sign DeMonte KZ. That's what you're probably looking at. Of course, that requires cap space, which is another conversation.
Yes. And I am no cap expert, but I can say if you start to re-sign Keanu Neal's, you have less. So
this is a good, and this is what we were just talking about. The rest of the whole is like, okay, well, $5 million gets you a starting quality safety. As a pass rusher, it's basically $1 million per sack. So you're going to get a 5-sack guy, which helps your defense out.
Yeah.
I mean, but you need pass rush. So it's like, I don't know how they're going to do it, man.
There are tough choices to come. And I think one thing we agree on is we love to I don't want to rehash this, but best available players. We won't even touch the Hawks right now. I don't want to have the Trae Young Doncic discussion that actually gives me physical cringes.
This has been an ongoing debate at our basketball games that we play together for 3 years now.
3 years of whether the Hawks got the better end of it by getting multiple talented players, and Trae is very, very talented, or do you take the one elite player and do it brick by brick?
But what we've landed on, and we both agree on this, is at the end of the day, you generally want to get the best player that you can get.